When you've been a business coach for as long as I have been, and I don't even know how long I've been business coaching, then after a while you start seeing that there are a bunch of habits that help people grow versus habits that keep people stuck. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. But one of the ways I know if my clients are actually working on their business instead of being busy but not productive is by how fast or how quickly they respond to my Instagram stories. I know if they're always responding to my stories really quickly, chances are they're not actually focused on their business. And you might feel a little bit caught by me saying that. I've even felt that way whilst responding to my own mentor stories. But the truth is there are about 11 really sneaky habits that can keep you stuck in your business, preventing you from growing. But luckily, there are also 10 fixes. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 11 sneaky habits that are keeping you stuck. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, the show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van de Putte from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. So to be really clear, we need to avoid the following 11 pitfalls that I'm going to walk you through. And I'm also going to give you a little checklist, which is going to give you or going to show you the actual fixes to these. So what you should be doing instead. So the first thing I see happening to a lot of people who can't really get past the I want to start phase is, and also people who feel really insecure, to be honest, I also need to watch out for this one, is that you scroll too much on social media, or what we call doom scrolling. So it's fine to look for inspiration online, but when we are consuming more than we are producing, this becomes a waste of time. So this is one of those things that I learned years ago. I noticed that I wanted to make more content. I wanted to build a name for myself, but I wasn't actually taking action. And it was because I felt a lot of resistance. I was really afraid of doing the wrong thing. I was afraid people weren't going to like it. They were going to make fun of me. So I kept on consuming content, reading articles. This was before Instagram was so big, scrolling, reading articles, Googling, what do the millionaires do? But at a certain point, I started realizing that the resistance I felt towards doing stuff is actually exactly the energy I needed to turn around, and I needed to start doing more. And what I noticed that the most successful people in the world were doing is that they were producing more than they consume. So if you catch yourself scrolling a lot on social media, imagine what would happen if you would use that scrolling time towards actually resting and turning off your brain, or towards producing. For me, what has happened in the past couple of years, and people don't believe me when I say this, but I actually consume very, very few podcasts. So I own and produce and co-produce 4 podcasts, and I've gathered over 1 million downloads in these past couple of years. So when people tell me, oh, I have a really good podcast you need to listen to, I'm often like, oh, thank you, but I don't listen to podcasts. And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah. Do you think if I had time to listen to all of those podcasts, I would have made as many podcasts? I produce instead of consume. And I don't mean to sound like an asshole when I say that. It's just one of the basic rules of social media is produce more than you consume, and everything will become better. Like literally, your marketing machine will start working for you. Which brings us to the second pitfall that we really don't want to fall into as an entrepreneur. It's always postponing and always learning without implementing. So learning isn't bad. I've actually recently bought a couple of courses again after not having consumed in a while. But what's really dangerous is that, especially starting entrepreneurs, they tend to buy courses, they tend to follow along. And of course, I sell courses and coaching, so please do buy them, but make sure you are also implementing. So procrastinating by learning without implementing is a huge red flag. Oh my God, red flag is such a good title for this episode. Let me write that down. Red flag, so much better. Yes, red flags. Whew. I was Googling trigger words. I was actually talking to ChatGPT about this episode. I was like, what are good mini chat trigger words for my guide? And I got a couple of good ideas, but red flags, 11 red flags for entrepreneurs. It's just solid gold. Of course, you know that by the time you listen to this episode, I will have given it a title. But I often have a working title, then I record the episode, and then I come up with a better title. A third pitfall or red flag, is that you want to really perfect your website before you start selling. To be honest, if you want to start selling, you want to start your business, you don't even need a website. Having a nice website is good fun and it can help you in the long run. But when you don't have any clients, when you don't have any fame to your name, this is not your priority. If you're in a service-based sector, you can get away with simply, buying a domain name, redirecting it to a landing page that could be just an email opt-in. For example, you don't need a full website, just get the domain name. And even if you don't have the domain name, also fine. If you want to sell product-based, it's going to be a little bit more important. But also there, you can already get started by building up a wait list for the products you're going to be launching before actually launching your site, like, for example, your Shopify store. So making your website perfect before you start selling is something I did. So I'm not judging any of you, by the way. I did all of the things from this list until I, called out my own bullshit. But your really fancy website isn't going to help you get clients if you're not marketing. Like if no one gets to your website, the website is not useful. So start building up an audience so that by the time you actually have a website or a shop, people will convert. Or you'll have traffic, actually. Same goes for the next mistake I see a lot of people making is that you think about your branding and your designs in Canva too long. I see so many people spending hours and hours on a single post in Canva. And I know how easy that is. I often put a time limit on, for example, when I need to review merchandise or designs, I'll give myself a time limit for doing this because I know how easy it is to get caught up in the details and to want to spruce up everything. But I actually highly recommend you do this. If you are designing something, just give yourself a time limit, set an actual timer and tell yourself, good is good enough, or remind yourself of the 80-20 rule. I do this often when I used to make a lot of my posts in Canva myself. I would continue tweaking, and before I knew it, an hour would have passed by. And then at a certain point, I realized that extra 50 minutes of spending time on it instead of the 10 initial minutes wouldn't actually 6 times my ROI. Like if I spent 6 times longer on it, I wouldn't get 6 times the ROI. So I would be better off creating 6 different things in those 60 minutes versus optimizing the one thing just purely for the layout and the design. Of course, the bigger your brand gets, the more important your brand strategy will be. But that goes far deeper than just the way it looked. It's also about your messaging and things. So I do think that when you are scaling, your brand strategy is important. But when you are starting, there's a really big difference between starting and scaling. When you are starting, you don't need to make it perfect. You just need to make sure you get it out. So post it. Publish it, hit post, hit export, hit download. Stop fucking around in Canva. Next up is spending too much time on small administrative tasks. I'm really curious, by the way, how many of these are you guilty of? I asked this in a webinar a while back. I shared this list and people were just dying. They were like, oh my God, I'm guilty of so many of these. And if you really want to grow and you want to make your time more valuable as a business owner, I'm going to be honest, you're going to have to try to get to 0 in this list. And I already shared it, the first one, like scrolling on social media. For me, it's not as much that I consume before I produce, because I do produce, but it's just a doom scrolling at night can hit me in the face if I don't pay attention. So I've actually installed an app on my phone. It's called Opal on my iPhone. And it actually just turns off all of my social media between 8 p.m. and 8:30 a.m. So I actually can't scroll anymore. But so where were we? We were at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is spending too much time on small administrative tasks. So, creating invoices, sorting through your emails, setting up your Google Drive so it's nice and organized. Sometimes this needs to happen, but they don't bring in new customers. So I would highly recommend you pick 1 day a week for this. And that doesn't mean that, tracking if your invoices are getting paid and doing those things on time isn't necessary. But so many people start their day with emails, whereas if you could take the first hour of your day and spend it on producing. This is my cash method. This is something I teach my business club clients, is that the cash method means that you spend the first 90 minutes of your day on cash, audience, sales, and then the hustle of the rest of your business. And sorting your emails and shit like that, that's the hustle stuff. It happens at the end of the day. It shouldn't happen at the beginning of the day. Even if it's the core of your business, shouldn't happen at the beginning of your day. You need to start your days with things that actually make your business grow, and do the small admin stuff either at the end of the day or at the end of the week. But don't do it all the time, because it's just fucking up your energy. And every time you switch between tasks, it drains your willpower battery. Which brings us to number 6, which is that people don't do sales, or they don't love sales, and they're afraid of getting rejected, or they're afraid that people are going to think they're annoying, and so they don't sell, they don't pitch, they don't send the email, they don't post the post, they don't create the story, they don't follow up with the client because they're afraid of getting rejected. But when you are not selling, you're not getting clients. When you're not getting clients, you're not getting cash flow. When you don't get cash flow, you go bankrupt. So even when you think you don't love sales or you're not good at sales, simply accept that if you're a business owner, you're going to have to sell yourself. It's kind of like when you go to work for someone else, you have to sell yourself in the interview. When you are a business owner, you're selling yourself and your business to clients. So start practicing your sales skills. Get comfortable selling. If you want some help with that, obviously I have courses and coaching programs that can help you with it. Feel free to DM me coaching on Instagram, and I'll know that you're interested in coaching and we'll chat. This is not automated, by the way. I know everyone automates everything, but I actually have actual conversations with people who want to learn from me. So DM me the word coaching on Instagram on FastForwardAmy and we'll chat. But know that when you are afraid of getting rejected and you are letting your ego run your lack of sales, you are fucking up your business. So every day you should be doing something to sell. This is the best way to train yourself, is just to make a little checklist. I do this with the cash method inside of my business club. And it's just okay, every day you do something for your cash flow, every day something for your audience, every day something for your sales. And that's how you get over yourself. Next up is random posting on social media without a strategy. So you're just simply thinking, I need to get something out, which is obviously already better than not posting anything or not, venturing outside in the world and marketing. But when you are very inconsistent, when you are talking about one thing one day, a different thing another day, then nothing for a week, then you're back. Social media isn't actually going to help you grow your business. It would be far better to do this with a strategy and to really know, okay, so what am I promoting that month or that quarter? How can I get people from being unaware that they have this problem to being aware of the pain, to looking at a solution, to maybe being willing to buy my product? You can actually put a strategy inside of your social media content so that by the time that you launch something, your audience will be primed and ready to buy from you. So you need a plan. So stop making random social media posts without a strategy. Obviously, still better than doing nothing, but make sure that your social media is actually helping you grow, helping you get sales, instead of just consuming all of your time. Our next red flag or pitfall is that you continue to question your pricing. So you're like, oh, should I put this price? What should I price my product? Which product should I pick? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of just, picking something and going for it. So I see a lot of people always being in doubt, what should I name it? Or which price should I give it? And I think, you should just test it. Can it work? Let's see. Ask your audience, pitch it to your audience. I don't necessarily recommend asking your audience what they would pay for something. It's because it's kind of like if Apple would say, hey, what would you pay for this small screen that fits inside of your pocket? You're like, nothing. I'm not. It's because, the iPhone gets its price point because of the marketing. And when you ask people for pricing feedback before you've marketed it, they aren't actually going to tell you the price they would be willing to pay for it because you haven't marketed it. So they don't see the value yet, or they don't believe yet that they want it, need it. So I don't necessarily think you need to ask your audience about pricing, but I do believe that you need to test. You can use the 80-20 curve to have some test data about, which prices you can implement. So for example, I use it. I know 8020curve.com, the book 80-20 in Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall is just simply genius. Let me check actually. Did I make a lead magnet about that? Have I made this? Let me check. I seem to remember talking about this to a client on a podcast. 80-20. No, I have. It's not in my mini chat lists. 80-20 curve. Let me see. FastForwardAmy.com/80-20 curve. Hey, this is a really quick interruption with a surprise for you. I promise you're gonna love this. I was just in a conversation, actually a power hour, with a client in my mastermind, and we were going through her strategy of how to scale her 6-figure business to 7 figures this year. And I asked her what she wanted, and she said, yeah, I want $1 million, but I also want more time with my kids. I want to stop working evenings, and I want to have more energy for what I love doing. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's list out all of your targets. We did exactly that, and then we got to work on the key elements she needs in order to grow her 6-figure business to a 7-figure business this year, and I applied my million methods. Now, we worked on this for a little bit over an hour, and at the end I was like, well, this was really valuable. Why don't I put this into a training to share with my audience? And as you are here on a podcast, I want to offer this to you for free. Now, know that working with me costs $10K for a day. The fact that I'm offering this to you for free is quite a glitch, and I am going to delete this after a while. So if you want my million method training, there is only one way you can access it. It's by going to my Instagram, FastForwardAmy, and DMing me the word method. If you do that, I'm going to send you my quick 24-minute training where I map out exactly how you can grow your online business from 6 to 7 figures this year. So go to my Instagram, FastForwardAmy, DM me the word method, and I'm going to send you the link to this really, really exclusive video training. Okay? Bye! Nothing happens, guys. I must be hallucinating. Nope, I don't have it. Either way, the book is amazing. 80-20 in Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall. It is one of those things that is useful for your pricing because you can input what you've been selling to how many people were hot, what the price point was, and then it can help you decide to that same audience, for example, how a different price point would work. And what I tend to do is I tend to set my prices based on my experience and the information I have in my business. And then I tend to run the 80-20 curve to see if it confirms what I already thought. I don't believe it blindly, but I do really use it. So instead of being in doubt about the package you're going to offer or the price or whatever, just pitch it to the client and try. And yes, it is easier to increase your prices along the way than to decrease them, but nothing is impossible. It's your business. If you, after a while, you want to change a decision you made, it's fine. But if you never make a decision, you can't actually get ahead. And this is why these are the pitfalls, obviously, because objects in motion stay in motion. I shared something about that in the last episode about why you need to invest in yourself. Definitely go and check out that episode. It was genius. Another thing is that I see a lot of starting entrepreneurs who want to do everything themselves without automating or outsourcing. Now, I know you don't have the budget maybe to outsource, and I've been there. I used to spend half an hour each week on my invoices. So I wasn't doing it every day, nice, but I was spending half an hour on it every week. And it was like, I had an Excel file, I created my invoices in there. It didn't feel like it took up a lot of my time, but it kept on adding up. I was running my business and going to university at the same time. So I didn't have a lot of time like most business owners. Maybe you're starting a side hustle or you're a mom or whatever. Like none of us have too much time on our hands, right? And so I discovered after a while that there were systems that could help you create your invoices. But those systems cost money. So I remember the first system I saw and I really wanted to use it and it looked genius. It saved all of your customers. It reminded them. It automated so much of the communication, but it cost $19 a month. And I was like, $20? I don't want to spend this. But then after a while, I realized that if I was spending 2 hours a month on this. And by using this system, I could reduce it to 1 hour or half an hour. I was saving, let's say, 90 minutes a month. In 90 minutes, I could see a client and a half, and a client was paying me 50 euros an hour. So that meant I could be gaining 75 euros in those 90 minutes. So I started realizing, okay, opportunity cost is real. And if I want to, make more time, because I still had to go to school, I was studying, I was running my business full time, I was managing all of my clients. I already had so much on my hands that I started realizing like, okay, you're going to have to get really good at managing opportunity costs. So you're going to have to buy back your time. And that happens. The first step is automating. And then you start outsourcing. So I started automating a lot of things, investing in an Instagram scheduling tool, investing in Canva, investing in pro subscriptions of things that other people use for free. And I just started saving so much time. And the time that I saved on those things helped me to actually work on the growth of my business or to not burn out. So there's that. The next two pitfalls are two big ones. They have to do with mindset. But before we dive into those, don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not going to just say, hey, you stupids, whatnot, stop doing these things. As I said, I made all of these mistakes. I know how hard it is. And maybe you're even thinking, but Amy, what do I do to grow my business? So I've made this list. It's like the ultimate entrepreneurial checklist, which includes these pitfalls, but also includes 10 really big fixes that 10 useful things you can do to actually build on, to grow your business, to work on the business. So I'm going to give the list to you. These are the things I do on a daily basis. So I've tried to eliminate the 11 pitfalls and really spend almost 100% of my time on the useful stuff. But you might not even know some of these things, because some of these things I've only recently discovered, and I've already done over 7 million in sales. So if I've only recently discovered these, I'm pretty convinced that you don't know all of these. So I'm going to give you my list. All you need to do is go to the link in the description, and I'll send you the list with the 10 useful activities that you can do to grow your business. But if you don't want to go to the link in the description, you might be driving or something. Let's say that you send me the word pitfalls on Instagram. So pitfalls, or in Dutch valkuilen. If you send me the word pitfalls or valkuilen in Dutch on Instagram, on FastForwardAmy, or on eigenbaas.be, which is my Dutch account, I'm going to send you the list, including the 10 fixes of the things you need to be doing on a weekly basis and even on a daily basis to grow your business and to finally work on the business instead of staying stuck, okay? Go and send me that DM and I'll give you this list. Which brings us to the final two things that you should not do. And one of these, I just texted one of my clients who's going through a little bit of a rough patch, and she's also on her period, which is like, as a business coach of female CEOs, it's important to know that. I was thinking of setting up a tracker, just tracking all of their cycles. But what we talked about in the beginning of the episode, the scrolling thing, sometimes what happens is when you scroll a lot, you also subconsciously compare yourself a lot to other people. And that might actually paralyze you. Maybe you compare yourself to other people. Maybe it paralyzes you. I used to have this with Marie Forleo. I used to really look up to Marie Forleo. And I saw her videos and they were so good and so beautiful. And her hair looked so shiny and the set was so amazing. And then I looked at my ugly videos and I was like, oh, I suck. And then I realized, she's been at this for a really long time. I'm just getting started. And I kind of just vowed to myself, stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. Just simply stop comparing. Comparison is the thief of joy. So stop thinking you're not good enough. Stop thinking you're not ahead enough yet. Just stop comparing yourself to other people. Maybe you need to unfollow everyone. Maybe you need to mute all of them. I don't care what you do. Install an Opal app on your phone so you don't see social media. But you're going to have to get disciplined about your mind, or the drama will just pull you under, and we don't want that. Which brings me to number 11, which wasn't on my original list. Can you believe that? I originally had a list of 10 don'ts and 10 do's. But then someone said something, one of my clients actually, in a webinar of mine. Shout out to her. She knows who she is. And she said, you know what else is being like spending too much time on other people's drama. And I was like, holy shit, that's such a good one, because this sometimes happens to me as well. It'll be a Tuesday morning. I'll be trying to focus on strategy, and all of a sudden drama in the WhatsApp group or whatever. But these are tiny things that tend to take up so much of your time. Drama, worrying about tiny shit. I had this happen to me over the years. And I started noticing that it just, it wasted a lot of my time. And then I couldn't focus on a podcast or prepping a webinar or be creative or grow the business. And then I realized like, oh, Amy, you're really going to have to get disciplined, like discipline over drama, because this is not worth it. And I noticed that one of the reasons I got swept up in the drama sometimes was because I felt like, because I was self-employed, I got to choose my own calendar and I got to be there for my friends. But what I didn't realize was that sometimes the drama was just really small drama that, was not important in my day. And then I started asking myself a question I often ask is, what would the best version of me do? Or what do the most successful people in the world do? Or people I look up to, online or inspire me, my mentors. And I realized they would never spend their precious Tuesday morning strategy time on this type of tiny drama. So stop spending time on people's tiny drama. Focus on your own growth. And don't get distracted by other people's drama and distractions. You need to focus on you. And sometimes, and especially as female CEOs, this is really difficult, but this is something I've been working on these past couple of months. It is okay to be a little bit more selfish, because what you consider to be selfish might not actually be selfish. It might just be what you need to secure your future. Okay? Go and grab the whole checklist to discover the 10 things you need to do that will help you grow. And I hope you'll execute all of them. And I hope you'll stop spending time on these 11 pitfalls. Remember to send me the word pitfalls on Instagram and I'll send you the whole guide. And I hope to see you back next week, Tuesday. By the way, in case you missed it, last week's episode was really good. It was about changing your environment, about, what do small-minded people do? What do great people do? And how you can change up your environment at low costs, higher costs. I've been spending $50,000 a year on my own self-development and investing in masterminds over the years, but it didn't start out like that. Like I didn't have $50,000. Obviously, that's more than I used to make in a whole year. So if you missed that episode, definitely go and check it out. And then I will love to see you next week in next week's episode. Bye.